The film begins by showing a wedding where the bride, Nora, doesn't look happy. On the other hand, there's a man named Chong-yeol who is feeling upset and tries to feel better by drinking at a bar. Turns out, Chong-yeol used to be Nora's boyfriend, and he's really sad because she's marrying someone else. They were in a loving relationship for more than 6 years, but some problems made them break up 2 months ago. In that moment, Chong-yeol never thought Nora would marry someone else because he believed she loved him. Even though she ended their relationship, Chong-yeol is determined to win her back. He plans to go to Nora's wedding, but his friend Ki-bae warns him that he might be too late since the ceremony might be over. However, Chong-yeol doesn't pay much attention to Ki-bae and leaves the bar. When he opens the door, he's surprised to see Nora standing there in her wedding dress. Turns out Nora ran away from her own wedding because she still loves Chong-yeol deep in her heart. She tells him she wants to be in a romantic relationship with him again. She also asks Chong-yeol to meet her mom, Bo-bae, to make a good impression because her mom supports their relationship. The next day, Chong-yeol gathered up his courage and met with Bo-bae. He was really nervous and felt out of place because Bo-bae invited him to a fancy restaurant. At that time, Chong-yeol didn't have much self-confidence because he didn't have a lot of money, and Nora came from a wealthy family. Besides that, Chong-yeol wasn't working right now because he was busy studying for the bar exam. During their meeting, Bo-bae was about to raise her glass, and Chong-yeol worried she might throw water on him. But in reality, she didn't do anything like that. Instead, Bo-bae gave Chong-yeol an envelope filled with money. At first, he thought she was trying to bribe him to break up with Nora. But to his surprise, Bo-bae wanted him to use the money to buy a better apartment. She wanted her daughter to live comfortably after marrying Chong-yeol. There, Bo-bae made it clear, though, that even though she was giving her blessing for him to marry Nora, she wouldn't consider him as her son-in-law. After getting Bo-bae's approval, Chong-yeol met Nora's father, Jung-gun, who had always been against their relationship because he didn't think Chong-yeol truly loved his daughter. On the other hand, Nora, who was upset with her father, firmly told him that she loved Chong-yeol more than him, even though he had cared for her since she was a child. After hearing this, Jung-gun got quiet and went inside to get his rifle. He pointed it at Chong-yeol without hesitation, making Nora try to stop her father. She told Chong-yeol to leave to avoid being shot. But Chong-yeol, who truly loved Nora, decided to stay and face the consequences to marry her. Eventually, Jung-gun gave his approval for Chong-yeol to marry his daughter. Later, Chong-yeol and Nora had a simple wedding with only close family and friends. But after they started living together as a married couple, they realized their habits and personalities were very different. Nora, coming from a wealthy family, wasn't good at housework, which made Chong-yeol frustrated with the messy house and dirty dishes piling up. In their second year of marriage, they decided to get a divorce. During the divorce hearing, Nora explained to the judge that their problems started when they were preparing for the wedding. Chong-yeol refused to use the money from Nora's mom to buy a new apartment because he didn't want to feel embarrassed in front of her family. They'd also had a big argument during their honeymoon in Switzerland, which was Nora's idea. However, she chose to stay at the hotel instead of going sightseeing or skiing with Chong-yeol. At that time, their friends also knew about their honeymoon and had different opinions about their marriage. During the court hearing, Chong-yeol talked about how Nora used to call him unemployed when they first got married. Back then, he wanted to borrow money from her to buy a gift for his junior who was getting married. But Nora refused, and that made Chong-yeol upset, so he kept calling himself unemployed to annoy her. In court, Nora told the judge that Chong-yeol and his parents often made her feel mentally intimidated just because she came from a rich family, and she wasn't used to doing housework. Besides that, Chong-yeol's mother, Suk-jung, would scold her because she didn't clean the refrigerator and wasted food. On the other hand, Chong-yeol pointed out Nora's habits of drinking until she got drunk and not bathing regularly. He even mentioned a time when Nora, who was drunk and hadn't showered, tried to seduce him to do the unthinkable while he was studying for the bar exam. Because she forcefully kissed him, he accidentally pushed her, and she fell. Nora got upset when she heard this and told the judge that Chong-yeol was having an affair with a co-worker. But Chong-yeol denied it and said it was actually Nora who was involved with the director. There he also mentioned how Nora had made him fail the bar exam, even though he had worked really hard to become a lawyer. He set an alarm on his phone to make sure he woke up on time for the exam. However, when he woke up, his house was filled with smoke because Nora had left a pot burning while she was asleep on the sofa after drinking too much the night before. On the other hand, Nora tried to defend herself by saying that she had been supporting Chong-yeol because he was unemployed. Because they both strongly believed they were right and were quite stubborn, they argued a lot in the courtroom until the judge had to stop them. After listening to their explanations and reasons for wanting a divorce, the judge asked if they were sure about their decision. Both Chong-yeol and Nera said they were determined to get a divorce. So the judge decided to give them 30 days to think it over, and would make the divorce official next month. As they left the courthouse, Chong-yeol seemed excited because he would finally be divorced from Nera. He even set an alarm on his phone to remind him about the upcoming divorce next month. On their way home, Nera asked Chong-yeol why he had been holding back during their marriage. In the courtroom, Chong-yeol had mentioned that he had thought about divorcing Nera on the day of his bar exam. This led to another argument in the car, but suddenly their car was hit by a truck, causing an accident that made both Chong-yeol and Nera lose their memory. Later, a nurse told them that they were a married couple. Chong-yeol was embarrassed because he didn't remember being married to a beautiful woman like Nera. Nera, on the other hand, was annoyed and regretted marrying someone she didn't remember. Shortly after, Chong-yeol checked his cell phone and saw a reminder for the 15th of the next month, but he couldn't recall its significance. When he asked Nera about the date, she didn't remember either. Nera's younger sister, Naimi, informed them that the date was their divorce date. Meanwhile, the doctor suggested to Bo-bae and Suk-jung that Chong-yeol and Nera should live together to help recover their memories. Even though their parents initially wanted them to divorce, they agreed to let them live together until they both remembered everything. To make sure Chong-yeol and Nera don't rekindle their love and go through with the divorce, Bo-bae decides to have Naimi move in with them and keep an eye on them all the time. Bo-bae also organizes an event to celebrate their recovery from the accident. Following the doctor's advice, Bo-bae invites their family and close friends to help Chong-yeol and Nera remember their lives before the memory loss. During this gathering, Ki-bae shares the story of how Chong-yeol and Nera first met. He had introduced them on a blind date when Chong-yeol called him from a nightclub, thinking he needed the bill. However, Ki-bae misunderstood and introduced Chong-yeol to Nera, who happened to be at the nightclub. Nera was somewhat impressed with Chong-yeol's cleanliness as he wiped the glass she would use and tidied up the table. But she was put off by his awkward smile and left abruptly to drink with another man. Later, Chong-yeol saw Nera choking and rushed to help her, taking her to the hospital. However, Nera ended up falling in love with the doctor who treated her instead of thanking Chong-yeol for saving her life. Not long after that, Nera started dating the doctor. A few months later, Chong-yeol and his friends, who were at a baseball game, happened to see Nera dancing in the stands. It turned out Nera was upset and letting off steam by drinking and dancing because she had just found out her boyfriend was cheating on her with another woman. After the game on a rainy night, Nera was on the bus when someone pushed her, causing her to fall. Just then, Chong-yeol showed up and sheltered her with an umbrella while greeting her. When Nera saw Chong-yeol, she remembered him as the guy she had met at the nightclub some time ago. Shortly after that, a shy Chong-yeol tried to invite Nera to play baseball together, but she straightforwardly asked for his phone number. Now, in the present, Nera is surprised when her friends remind her about being the one who asked for Chong-yeol's number, and she still has strong feelings for him. The next day, Chong-yeol and Nera attended a hypnosis session to help them remember their past. But Chong-yeol could only recall the accident and the burning pot on the day of his bar exam. On the other hand, Nera remembered that on the day of the exam, she had cooked porridge for Chong-yeol, so he could have breakfast before leaving. However, she got too drunk and fell asleep, accidentally setting the pot on fire. After the hypnosis session, Chong-yeol said sorry to Nera, because he hadn't known why the pot burned. Bo-bae thought that Nera and Chong-yeol might calmly divorce because they seemed to be getting along. But Suk-jung replied that they shouldn't divorce if they still love each other. In the following days, Chong-yeol and Nera got more comfortable living together. There was a moment when they both entered the bathroom at the same time, and it didn't feel awkward. While Nera was eating strawberries, Chong-yeol suddenly remembered a time when they were intimate while eating strawberries. Upon hearing this, the doctor suggested that they try physical contact to help trigger their memories, especially since they were married. Seeing that Nera was still uncomfortable with physical contact, Chong-yeol invited her on a secret date so Naimi wouldn't find out. Soon after, Chong-yeol took Nera to a baseball stadium, hoping it might help them remember something, but it didn't. They continued their date by having street snacks and dinner at a fancy restaurant. On a rainy night, Nera lost her umbrella in the strong wind and Chong-yeol quickly covered her, which reminded Nora of the beautiful moment when he had done the same several years ago. Nora then kissed Chong-yeol, but suddenly she slapped him, apologizing right afterward. Shortly after, Nora invited Chong-yeol to drink at Kibei's bar. When they arrived, their friends encouraged them to take a love shot in the hope they would reconsider divorcing. After the love shot, Nora and Chong-yeol couldn't resist their feelings and do the unthinkable. Seeing this, Kibei and the others decided to give them some privacy and stepped outside. The next day, Nami tells her mom that Nora and Chong-yeol didn't come home the previous night, and she suspects they went out together. But shortly after, Chong-yeol returns home with Kibei and his friends, followed by Nora with her friends. Chong-yeol explains that he had drinks with his friends at Kibei's bar, while Nora says she stayed at her friend's house that night. In the following days, Chong-yeol and Nora grew closer, feeling more comfortable being intimate in the bedroom when Nami was away. However, things took an unexpected turn when Nami came home early and accidentally caught them being intimate, leading her to call her mom. Chong-yeol tried to stop Nami but accidentally caused him to fall when he stepped on a baseball and lost consciousness. Nami and Nora rushed Chong-yeol to the hospital, but shortly after that, Bo-bae tells Nora to leave Chong-yeol because she plans to send her abroad after their divorce is finalized. On their way home, Nora tried to convince her mother to give them a chance to patch things up, but Bo-bae firmly declined because she didn't want her daughter to suffer. There, Bo-bae shared Nora's own struggles in getting her parents to accept her relationship with Chong-yeol and how Nora had worked hard to support Chong-yeol at the beginning of their marriage. That evening, as Chong-yeol was about to return to his apartment, he ran into Nora waiting for him. It turns out Chong-yeol's memory had fully returned, which Nora could tell because he looked at her with anger after waking up from fainting. She expressed her happiness and gratitude for his recovery, but then left him. On the scheduled date, Chong-yeol and Nora returned to court, and their divorce was officially approved by the judge. After the divorce, Nora prayed for Chong-yeol's happiness and left. The next day, Bo-bae seemed to realize that Nora still loved Chong-yeol, even though she had lost her memory of him, as she looked sad while packing her belongings. Soon after that, Bo-bae met with Chong-yeol to let him know about Nora's flight schedule to New York. At first, Chong-yeol felt helpless because the court had already approved their divorce papers. However, one of his friends informed him that they needed to officially register the divorce at the district office within 90 days. If they didn't do it in time, their divorce would be canceled. On the other hand, Kibei advised Chong-yeol to remember the wonderful moments he shared with Nora. But instead, Chong-yeol was stuck thinking about their arguments and bad times. On the way to the airport, Chong-yeol finally recalled the moment when Nora had canceled her wedding to another man and returned to him because she still loved him. This made Chong-yeol realize how much Nora was willing to sacrifice, even against her family's wishes, just to be with him. Fortunately, Chong-yeol made it to the airport in time and rushed to express his feelings to Nora. However, Nora had earphones in, and she couldn't hear his heartfelt words. Nora simply mentioned that she was happy to see Chong-yeol smile and then left. Feeling like he had failed, Chong-yeol decided to head home with his friends, who tried to cheer him up. As he was about to leave the airport, unexpectedly, Nora called him and decided to stay with him. Nora felt it was unfair because her memory hadn't fully returned yet, so she didn't remember the bad times that had led Chong-yeol to consider divorce. In the end, Nora asking Chong-yeol to stay by her side until her memory fully returns, and Chong-yeol happily agrees. The moral lesson from this film is if your marriage is on the rocks, just pray for a convenient bout of amnesia, a love shot, and an airport chase scene case. It's the surefire way to rekindle the romance.